November has cometh and November has goneth, leaving us with a bunch of soap in its wake. If you've been to the soap club before, welcome back. How are you doing? If not, welcome to the soap club. For the rules of the game, please refer to the discretionary intro I made in the very first Soap Club episode. I have a Soap Club playlist, so doing so is easier than saying let's get to it. Last episode, I asked you all to roast this delicious confectionery soap I made. I have to say I'm disappointed. Only 2 people attempted to roast it, and I say attempted because they both ended up complimenting it instead. So thank you Rebecca Capper 7726 and Sammy Kelsch. Thanks for commenting. Now it's time for a soapy Reddit feast. We're starting off strong with the Pasternak's Slanted Layer Soap. Really nice. I treasure slanted soaps because I find them visually striking when done right, especially with contrasting colors like the Pasternak used. I have a bit of a soft spot for more natural subdued colors if they're used in an interesting way. And what better way to use subdued colors than with an oatmeal, milk, and honey fragrance? What a joyful smell. If you don't know what that smells like, apologize to yourself in the mirror and then go buy one. It's mild and light and slightly sweet, and it's just a gentle kiss on your nose. It has no reason to smell so comforting. Pasternak used cappuccino mica from Brambleberry to get that gentle grayish brown. It looks like they used some gold mica to get a nice gold pencil line in there, which just contributes to that standard of elegance. And they used some ground walnut shells to get that lovely speckled appearance throughout the bar. Does this white layer not look like vanilla bean ice cream? Like wholly delicious. Honestly, the soap is almost perfect. If it had something sprinkled on that little crest there, that would bring it to perfection for me, but otherwise, 4 stars. Not gonna lie, I creeped their account to see if they posted other soap, and holy cow, look at those nails. She's about to cast a magic ice spell with those. In 14th place is Unable Carob with their very first batch of soap, which is a knockoff of Dr. Squatch's Pine Tar soap. Now, I have a few problems with Dr. Squatch, so get your popcorn. Number 1, they flaunt how all natural their products are, even though all natural isn't yet well defined and regulated, so it may as well be a magical term that means nothing. 2, they state they use no harmful ingredients, and again, please define what constitutes a harmful ingredient. Harmful to the environment, harmful when ingested, when on the skin. I mean, they use orange essential oil, which is known to induce phototoxicity, and the risk is low and not very well documented, so better safe than sorry, right? Just like the parabens, musks, and soybean oil they've added to their roster of ingredients they vow never to use, right? I just have a problem with companies using buzzwords to get a sale. Dr. Squatch uses a ton of great ingredients. Why not advertise those more effectively? Why not promote the sustainability of their ingredients, or that most of their ingredients are plant-based, or even that their ingredients are rich in vitamins and antioxidants and other beneficial compounds? And the answer is likely because of negativity bias. Saying your product has no bad is more effective than saying your product has good. And last point, formulated specifically for men and using manly scents. Now I get their whole shtick is, grrr, macho man can be clean too. Whoa. Never doing that again. But I think it just perpetuates the stereotype that what's considered manly is plain earthy colors paired with Axe-like fragrances that have very little character, in my very personal opinion. I don't think men, especially straight men, should feel embarrassed if they want to use a colorful soap that smells like Tutti Frutti, in my very personal opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. That was a long-winded tangent. Back to the soap in question. This is a pine tar soap, which is sought after for its antibacterial qualities, which become irrelevant in soap, I'll add. And those white specks strewn throughout are ground oats, which could potentially rot. Ground oats are a popular exfoliant in soap, and the copycat recipe the soap maker used incorporates super finely ground oats because the coarser the grain, the more likely it is to rot. Now, rotting soap won't kill you, it'll still be useful, but I wouldn't give it to anyone. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the soap maker ground their oats finely enough. The bars are unevenly cut, they're a plain brunette color. I feel really bad, but the soap is gonna get a 2 from me. There are a lot of people out there who would love this soap, so keep doing what you're doing. Coming up is Indianister's Peppermint Eucalyptus soap, and my very first thought when I saw this was, parfait! Like, did they seriously put granola on their soap? But on closer inspection, it's dried flowers. They look like maybe dried chamomile flowers, correct me if I'm wrong. I quite like this soap. I first thought the white layer was very disproportionate, but the plot twist is that the white is actually not white all along. So Indianister was actually trying to make 4 layers, and they made the third pour just a little too light in color, which is a bummer, but it's also a super common mistake to make. I mean, I control color about as well as someone can control their bladder when it's full and they're being tickled. I'll leave it at that. This is Indianister's second soap ever, and what a second soap to make. I mean, kudos to them, they did a great job. It's giving me total summer beach vibes, and I totally get the vision they had. Those beachy blues contrast nicely with those orange flowers on top, and the bar looks nice and cohesive. Regrettably, I have 3 things to say about it. First, I have a feeling they were going for straight layers, but then got impatient and poured the next layer without waiting for the previous one to set up. Who knows if that's the case, but I feel like that blue dip wasn't intentional. Second, the bars look quite thin, and in my experience, thinner bars usually dissolve faster than thicker bars for the same weight of soap, and I think that's probably because the surface area is larger. Third, we all know, I don't like peppermint and even eucalyptus. They smell like medicine and remind me of being sick. Do a lot of people like peppermint and eucalyptus? Yes, absolutely. It's the scent of one of Lush's best-selling bars of soap. Will they eventually grow on me? Perhaps, but for now, I'll give the soap 3.5 stars. Next in 12th place is Brilliant Housing and their elegant black and gold soap. Gee, in 2024, Brilliant Housing could not be further from the truth. I will admit, I am quite entranced by soaps with gilded gold tops. I just find them so mesmerizing and elegant. And the combination of gold mica with that perfect charcoal black just really gives this objectively simple design an added layer of interest. The soap maker was clever and oven processed their soap to force it to gel so that the black could really become deep and saturated. Oh my god, could you imagine a soap made out of Vanta black? Like, soap maker makes the darkest soap ever! Really, there's nothing else to discuss about the soap other than the visual appearance. It's giving me New Year celebration / ancient Egyptian monument. Just a really striking design, and it goes to show that a simple soap could be just as impressive as a frosting-covered atrocity. This one's gonna get another 3.5 from me. Toodaloo and their goat named Sunflower brings to the table their unscented goat milk soap. Literally abominably cute! I've never made soap from goat's milk, but I've only heard great things about it. It's gentle! It's best for sensitive skin! It's the GOAT! I would love to try making a goat milk soap in the future, or maybe like a goat butter bubble bar or something like that. Directing my attention to the bar of soap, it's a plain cream colored bar with nothing done to it, and I want to reiterate that there's absolutely no problem with soap like that. It's also cut really strangely. I wonder if they were trying to bevel it, but it looks like they took off a bit too much for my liking. The top is also very ashy, which they could have reduced with a spritz of rubbing alcohol or quick steaming. This is gonna get 2 stars for me. A frequent soap maker, the Bubbly Witch, shows us a really interesting color morph their soap underwent, changing from a lovely cerulean blue to a magical grape purple. They used the color Key West Blue from Mad Micas and used eucalyptus essential oil for the fragrance, as well as CBD powder, which is likely responsible for the color change because CBD turns bright purple when it reacts with lye. My question about the CBD powder is, why? There is absolutely no evidence to suggest that any of the beneficial compounds of CBD survive saponification, and that if they do, that they're left on your skin long enough during hand washing for your skin to reap their benefits. I just wish people would do a little more research when it comes to additives like that, because a lot of the time, they're literally just washing their money down the drain. Soap is a wash-off product. It's meant to clean your skin. It's not meant to deposit. Bath bombs, bubble bars, lotions, those are the places you want to use those sorts of additives. Little rant aside, I think they've got some gorgeous swirling going on there, and it looks like they might have poured the 2 colors and then gently swirled with a spoon or something. The white is snowy perfection, the little swish swash design they did on top is interesting, and I actually like the color of that purple, which is inevitably going to spread through the rest of the bar. It's quite simple, pretty standard, so I'm giving it 3 stars. Bringing us to the single digits is Licked Gratitude, which is another name for me when I'm eating an ice cream cone. Speaking of decadent, sweet, creamy things, holy fudge. Is this not just like a piece of fancy fudge masquerading as a bar of soap? Licked Gratitude used a brambleberry fragrance oil called Cocoa Butter Cashmere, which contains an illegal amount of vanillin. Looking at the description of the fragrance, it looks like it's a sandalwoody vanilla cocoa butter concoction. I know a lot of people who love sandalwood, but I'm not the biggest fan. I like smells you'd find in a kid's lunchbox, like bubblegum, gummy cola bottle, or squished sandwich. Maybe my opinion will change about sandalwood in the future, but the more my soap smells like candy, the better. Those golden pencil lines are executed well, and they work really nicely with that fudgy brown, breaking up the soap to keep it visually interesting. I don't know how they did it, maybe it was unintentional, but I also really like how geometric those lines look. They sort of look like fractures in space-time. Something that's confusing me a bit is whatever's happening on top. Leave a comment telling me what you think they were going for on top because I'm really confused. It kind of looks like a hairy truffle, like someone dropped their chocolate on the floor and it rolled under the couch, and that glitter isn't helping. I was inclined to give this a higher rating, but the top sort of knocked it down for me, so I'm giving this soap 3 stars. In 8th place, we have Mary Ants in My Pants, or Marie Ants in My Pants, I think I got it wrong the previous times, and their own version of a Practical Magic black soap. Let me look that up. Oh, okay, interesting. So if you're out of the loop, like I very much am, Practical Magic is a 90s fantasy novel that was later turned into a film, and the black soap is created and used by some of the characters to heal their complexion. It's made from licorice-infused oil, honey, clove, rosemary, lavender, and mint. Looking at Google, there's a wealth of interpretations of the soap, but most of them seem to be, yes, mostly black, with dried calendula and rose petals. Because this is Marie's interpretation, I'm not going to judge her soap on how authentic to the book it's supposed to be. Being another dark soap with golden pencil lines like the previous one we looked at, I think it looks pretty nice. The black isn't totally black, which isn't a huge bummer for me because I think the soap ended up being a really interesting slate color. True black can be difficult to achieve, and some people just don't want that on their hands. I think those gold pencil lines are less successful than Licked Gratitude's pencil lines. I think this soap maker went a little light on the gold. They could have sprinkled some more, or maybe they should have used a gold fluorphlogopite or something, which is extra sparkly. I will admit that pencil lines are tricky to pull off because you need to use enough mica for the line to be visible, but you don't want to use so much mica that your layers separate. It's better safe than sorry though, and I won't scrutinize them too much for that. Moving up to the top, I normally bat an eye to dried botanicals, but I think the pink and yellow of those dried rose and chamomile flowers bring a nice pop of color to an otherwise monotone bar of soap. I'm a little confused about the little sprinkling on top. It looks like thyme flakes, I'm guessing, but to me it kind of looks like they've seasoned their soap for dinner. For the fragrance, they used an essential oil blend of lavender, rosemary, and tea tree, which I think totally fits for a design like this. Herbaceous, earthy, and grounding. I'm giving this one 3.5 stars. Wow, this month is just full of black soaps, isn't it? Brilliant Housing made another black themed soap, and this is what I wish I made when I made my fusion soap that contains every fragrance I had in my inventory. This soap maker got a great black and white going on there. They were smart to use a soap recipe that wasn't heavy on darker oils like olive oil so that they could really push that white without having to add any titanium dioxide. That said, I think their white would have benefited from a little TD so it'd be more opaque and match the black in depth. Their design is pretty interesting too. It doesn't look like a drop swirl or like they used a hanger tool. I have no idea how they got those feathery transitions between the black and white. It's really cool, and I think it gives the soap a lot of movement to the extent that it almost looks like convection currents on the surface of the sun. They sprinkled some nice silvery salts right down the middle that really gives this soap a gothic brooding sort of style. They used Crown of Lavender and Blanca to perfume their soap, which are 2 fragrances that can be found at Lark Artisan Supply in Victoria, Canada. Lavender is an extremely popular fragrance. It's up there with other things people like to smell on a regular basis, like boiled cabbage and marijuana smoke. That's at least what seems to be the case where I live. I've never heard of Blanca before. I thought it was going to be a fancy girl perfume, to be honest, but apparently Blanca is a floral that's similar to fresh linen, so it's nice and gentle. As far as my rating goes, their soap is solid, so I'm going to give them 3 stars. Looking at the soap, I can already tell who made it. Mr. Perfect Shot is a frequent poster on the r/soapmaking subreddit, and layers upon layers upon layers is their trademark. I think this is a really striking color story they have going on. I really enjoy that classic 90s combination of pink and teal, and the black and white thrown in there are just stunning. What sort of spoils the appearance for me is their use of raw uncolored soap batter. I think it breaks the immersion and distracts from those other lovely colors that jive really nicely together. They didn't specify which fragrance they used, so let's invent one. I think a fragrance that would pair really well with this soap design is something that's lively and bubbly. Maybe Champagne Toasts by Wholesale Supplies Plus, or perhaps a citrusy sort of pink grapefruit blend. Something bright and fun. I'm giving this soap 3.5 stars because I think it's a fun design, but Mr. Perfect Shot and their designs just lack something for me. I think it might be the finish. If they're gonna leave the top plain, that's totally fine, but they might want to bevel the edges to add some interest, or maybe ensure that their top is perfectly flat and isn't hugging the sides of the mold. This design could be a solid 5 if they took out the uncolored soap batter and cleanly beveled the edges. Mr. Perfect Shot is so close to making a perfect shot. Speaking of Mr. Perfect Shot, how bizarre!
Here's Mr. Perfect Shot again.
I'll go ahead and say I think their previous soap was a little more successful than this one in terms of the design. I think their layering got a little bit muddied in the middle there, but where the colors remain separate, it's another really striking soap from Mr. Perfect Shot. The color palette is a little calmer than their previous soap, and it's actually energizing a core memory of me exploring Toys R Us as a kid. Those playful primaries of blue, red, and yellow were just mere squares on the floor of this giant toy store that filled so many kids with joy. It just makes me really happy. I love the red, yellow, and blue. I could maybe do without the black, but I don't know, looking at it more, it kind of emphasizes the division between those colors and gives it a comic book sort of style, you know what I mean? I'm perplexed by this soap, obviously. But even more perplexing though is their choice of fragrance. They chose to use lemon gingerbread, which is fitting for the holidays, which are quickly approaching, but for me, I prefer soaps that have a cohesive story. It est, the fragrance ties into the design and the color palette the soap maker chose. Maybe that's a bit pretentious, but as a soap maker, I find the stories drive a lot of my soap making decisions. With this soap, I see no connection. Now, let me get this straight. I understand a lot of people just want to make pretty soap that smells good, and that's totally great. But I will factor into my personal ratings the effort that's put into cohesion. Class dismissed. It also looks like they might be using a lot of water in their soap, and I say that because I noticed in their previous soap, it looks like the soap is almost hugging the sides of their soap mold as the water evaporates from it. As per the constructive criticism I gave with the previous soap, I would give the soap an extra star with some cleanup, but as is, it's getting a 3.5. Indianister pops up on this list again with their very first soap, and I must say right here and right now, this is a very good first batch of soap and a good bar of soap in general. I'm sort of jealous considering my very first bar of soap was also purple and was a heaping pile of wet garbage. They didn't specify which fragrance they used, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that this is some lavender scented soap based on the lavender color and those lavender buds sprinkled on top. I'll be accepting my Nobel Prize for figuring that out. Those are very low grade lavender buds on top. Good quality lavender buds should look nice and purple. They especially shouldn't look like dried rosemary. As far as the design goes, it's a single color bar with some odd polka dots that have cropped up sporadically across the bars. I thought those were air bubbles, but on closer inspection, they look like darker patches of soap, and I have no idea what could have caused them. I like the Ripley swirly twirly top, and for a first batch of soap, this is leagues better than anything I made starting out. I'm giving it 3 stars for a simple but well executed design. Moving forward to the top 3, we have another first timer. These beginner soap makers are kind of making me question my soap making skills. Sometimes I can't even make soap that looks good like this, and I've been at it for 2 years. As per the arbitrary rules I laid upon the table for myself, I'll only be judging the leftmost soap that Solid Zone has pictured. Without even knowing the fragrance, it looks decadent and chewy. I'm gonna say it's something ice creamy, like mocha ice cream or hot chocolate or something delicious and rich. The fragrance they used is vanilla honey almond coffee. I just gained 600 calories saying that. Look at this person coming for Starbucks with their delicious coffee design. Even ignoring the fact that this is their first batch of soap, in my opinion, it's extremely well done. They were clever and controlled the vanilla discoloration by using brown colorants, and the layers are clean, although not the straightest I've seen. It looks like they didn't wait long enough for their previous layers to thicken, and that's understandable because layers are tedious, and by the time I'm done one layer, I want to stop and do something else. Solid Zone didn't mention what that chunky stuff in the bottom layer is, but since it's a coffee soap, I'm gonna guess they're coffee grounds, and it looks like they've sprinkled coffee grounds on top as well. Coffee grounds, great for exfoliation, a little abrasive, so don't use too much unless you want to wash your hands down the sink. Overall, really well done. Ambitious for a first bar of soap, but it paid off and they totally got it in the bag. The only thing I'll criticize is that the layers can be more level. 4 stars. In second place, we have our 6th black soap of the episode, and I'm not upset. I think black really emphasizes color, and that is exactly what No Classroom did with their Dragon's Fire soap. On first glance, I 100% get angry lava churning and bubbling out of the earth. If I squint really hard, I can even see the ring of power melting into it. This design is literally fire. It looks like they poured their black and then did a pot swirl with those warm colors that they dropped on top of the black after letting it thicken a bit, and I would guess that they reserved a bit of the black to pour within the lava later to get those broken chunks of volcanic rock. Actually, I'm wrong. According to them, they poured the black and then let it thicken to baneful butter consistency, and then poured the much more fluid lava on top and swirled it in with a Hainer tool. And I guess they used the Hainer tool to help break off those chunks of black. Ingenious method. I'm probably gonna steal that. A commenter said it looked like the cover of Metallica's album Load, and I had to look that up because I don't listen to heavy metal. Yeah, I could see it, although their artwork looks like suspended gels, whereas this soap is like unequivocally volcanic eruption. No classroom used a fragrance called Dragon's Breath. Now, I don't know what that means because I'm just a lowly muggle, but dragons apparently have an appetite for herbs and spices because their fragrance is a spicy, dark, and complex patchouli blend. The bars are nice and clean, the story is cohesive, and I would love these on my counter, so I'm giving them 4 stars. In very first place is and their outrageously pretty gradient soaps. This is their second time in a row in first place, and I imagine it probably won't be their last. That choppy sort of gradient effect reminds me of those old SNES video games where you could only fit a whole video game on a megabyte of space, so smooth gradients between colors were like impossible. Ugh, these are incredible. Meticulously layered, they remind me of a cold wintry sky. Professionally executed, nicely beveled, well photographed. These are getting 5 stars for me. Enough said. That brings us to the finals, where I get to decide what my top 3 favorite soaps from this month are. Getting bronze will be Solid Zone and their lovely decadent treat. Silver is No Classroom with their hot bubbly volcanic eruption soap. And getting gold, as you probably already know, is with their stunning gradient soap. My opinion will likely differ from yours, so let me know which top 3 soaps are your favorites in the comments below. Speaking of comments below, we must close this video with some tasty soap roast, so let me grab one from my repository. And the soap wizard has chosen... It's a latte, one of my worst performing videos on this channel. That'll be pleasant. You know the rules, roast this soap to filth, make me weep, and I'll present the funniest comment in next month's episode. The Soap Club is now adjourned. Thank you for sticking around, and don't forget to post your soap designs on r/soapmaking, maybe I'll rate it. Thank you for watching, bubble bye.